Hey, what's up guys? It's your boy Eli5 back at you guys with another video, and I really wanted to get into a really deep topic that's going around the NBA right now. This includes James Harden on the Houston Rockets potentially going to the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, this rumor has been going around for some time now, and it just keep on coming up in social media, in Bleacher Report, stuff like that. And who knows? Maybe the Rockets will give James Harden to the Philadelphia 76ers in exchange for like Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons. I don't know who the 76ers are willing to give up for James Harden, but it has to be one of those two star players, because if they're not getting a star player back for James Harden, then I mean obviously the Rockets are not going to take that trade. Either way, I feel like both rosters on the 76ers and Houston Rockets can benefit with these trades in some way, because be honest, both of these teams, they do need to change something. The Philadelphia 76ers are not looking too good right now. They've been going downhill ever since 2017-18. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say 2017, I'd say 2018 was really their first year trying to compete for something when they got 4-1 by the Celtics, but they were still young. But 2019 was the year that they looked reasonable. Like, they took the reigning champions Raptors to 7 games, and then this year they lost in the first round, despite, I mean, they didn't have Ben Simmons, but I feel like they should have made it a little bit more competitive. And same thing with the Rockets. Ever since 2018 ended, it's been downhill for them. They went to the conference finals, took the Warriors to 7 games, the dominant Warriors that's been beating every team for years on years, and they took that team to game 7. Obviously, they lost that game, and in 2019 and 2020, they are back-to-back second-round exit, one year more embarrassing than the other. And I also wanted to point out the fact that I find it very coincidental where the Rockets GM, the Rockets owner that used to own the Rockets, obviously he stepped down for the Rockets owner to go to the 76ers. So if the Rockets owner went to the 76ers, imagine if James Harden went to the 76ers too. I feel like that's a really big coincidence by itself. But like I've already mentioned, if the Rockets plan to trade James Harden to the 76ers, they most definitely want a deal that involves either Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid. Me personally, I would rather push for Joel Embiid more than Ben Simmons. I mean, Ben Simmons is still a good player, but looking at how the Rockets play, like looking at their play style, adding Ben Simmons to that roster is like, it's not gonna work perfectly in my opinion, because I mean, you already know the Rockets, they shoot a lot of 3-pointers, and I mean, you know, Ben Simmons is not known for his 3-pointers. You already know that. And you're pairing him alongside Russell Westbrook, who is also not known for his 3-point shot. So you're about to combine two of your best players on a team that can't shoot threes at all, looking at the way the Rockets play. So I feel like, I mean, Ben Simmons is a good player, like I said, don't get me wrong, but the way Ben Simmons plays, and I feel like Russell Westbrook and Ben Simmons can't be a good combination for the Rockets organization as a whole. Now, if you go on the flip side of things, if James Harden actually gets traded for Ben Simmons, for James Harden going to the Sixers and Ben Simmons going to the Houston Rockets, do you know what this means for the Philadelphia 76ers? The Philadelphia 76ers would benefit from that trade drastically, because you already know that the Sixers, they lack spacing. If you look at the roster, they have a really good defensive lineup as their starting five. They have a tall starting five. Their shortest player, I think, is Josh Richardson, which is 6'6", and even though he's 6'6", he's the shortest. 6'6" for being the shortest player on the starting five is pretty tall in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure that's pretty tall for a lot of people's opinion. But they lack that space, and they have no shooters. They traded JJ Redick, which was their honestly best shooter, and if they get James Harden, they have a really great shooter that can space the floor for Joel Embiid, and you don't have to worry about Ben Simmons having to clog the paint or having to drive 24/7 because he can't shoot threes. And to add on, can you just imagine the pick and roll plays that James Harden could do with Joel Embiid, the lobs that James Harden could throw to Embiid, the spacing that James Harden provides for Embiid to get easy cuts, easy open drives to the paint? I feel like that will work perfectly for the Sixers' favor, but there's always going to be some ways that the chemistry won't work between them two. We just going to have to wait and see what happens if James Harden somehow gets traded to the Sixers for Ben Simmons one day. But it's going to be very hard to predict who the Sixers are willing to give up to get James Harden, whether it's Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons. They value those two players a lot. Joel Embiid is their best player and arguably the best center in the league, and Ben Simmons, he's a 6'10" point guard. He's a demigod. Like, come on, 6'10" playing point guard. But in my eyes, I feel like this would be the most realistic trade option for the 76ers if they wanted to trade for James Harden. I feel like if the Sixers wanted to trade for James Harden, they would have to throw in Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, the number 21 pick, a future first-round pick, a future second-round pick for James Harden. And if they trade for all those pieces to get James Harden, they will essentially have a big four with Tobias Harris, James Harden, Joel Embiid, and Al Horford. So, I mean, keep in mind that all of these players will have huge contracts. Al Horford, Tobias Harris, they both have huge contracts. And you know, James Harden, he has a pretty big contract himself, and he's going to be a free agent soon. So you can potentially see a big four with the 76ers when they acquire James Harden, if they throw in Ben Simmons and all those other assets that I told you about just now. But I feel like there can also be an instance where, you know, cap space could be an issue at some point in time when they try to put these trade pieces together. I'm not saying that it's likely, but it's probably still a chance that they can, you know, get other players for Al Horford or Tobias Harris to get rid of them big contracts that they have if they really wanted to get James Harden at the end of the day. But the other question is, either way, if this trade goes down, will the Rockets benefit in this trade some way? In my opinion, I feel like it's still hard to tell. Obviously, the Sixers, they do lack spacing, so it's easy that James Harden can fix that problem. But with the Rockets, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like if the Rockets traded James Harden, I feel like the Rockets would probably go into rebuild mode. Like I said, I feel like there's a chance that they won't go into rebuild mode, but I really feel like it's a high chance that if they traded their franchise player for about 7 years, he got traded to the Rockets for since like 2012-13, so about 7 years. I feel like if they traded that player away, the Rockets can potentially go into full rebuild mode, trading Russell Westbrook and other pieces to get back other pieces and probably start a future around Ben Simmons. You never know. But at the end of the day, this trade still hasn't gone down. There's still a lot of talks regarding that trade, which means that there can be a possibility that the Rockets trade Harden. So we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens in regards to the season starting with these changes of rosters, with James Harden going to the 76ers for Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid, one of those players. But we're just gonna have to wait and see. But other than that, that will be the end of today's video. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. I will greatly appreciate it. I'm out. Peace.